Been my experience with the backwards compatible PS3 in 2022, and oh my gosh, I absolutely love this device. Even though fixing it was a pain at first, it has been so amazing to me now, and the results absolutely spoke for themselves. Let me know what you guys think about this video, please.
You know, this guy made a lot of good points. Sure, the backwards compatible PS3 can be kind of a pain at sometimes, but honestly, it's still worth it today. Let me go ahead and subscribe to this guy.
It's been a year already, huh? Man, time sure does fly.
So the PS3 officially launched on November 17th, 2006. And with this year marking its 17th birthday in November, the PS3 is finally old enough to drive. Nah, I'm just joking. But this console, which was once touted as the most powerful console in the world, did have its highest highs and its lowest lows. But it was during the beginning of the launch of the PS3 when we got one of the best consoles, in my opinion, ever made. That's right, I'm talking about the backwards compatible PS3. Boom! Now, I bought my backwards compatible model almost 2 years ago, but a year ago I made a video talking about my experience and my journey with not only repairs, but also just my personal experience with the backwards compatible PS3 and if I thought it was worth it. So now a year later, I just wanted to give you guys a more updated video on it, not just with better sound quality and mic quality, but just a little bit more details and things that I've picked up along the way, because I've learned quite a bit since I picked up that model. And even if I still think it's worth it to get a backwards compatible PS3, yes, I do. So if you guys like this sort of content, make sure to like and subscribe. We are on our way to 500 subscribers, and I'm so thankful and so happy to everyone who has subscribed already. So if you guys haven't, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We got a lot of really cool content coming out, a lot of cool unboxings, gameplay videos, more podcast episodes, so much more things coming along here. So I hope you enjoy this video, and let's go to... So, should you get a backwards compatible PS3? Look, it's a lot more complicated than just a yes and a no answer. I think that there is so much more that goes in depth with this than just for me to say, yeah, go get it, or no, don't go get it. Because if you go online, for example, if you look up all these forums and all these other things, kind of like how I did last year before I bought one, you know, you're going to see a bunch of people like, no, don't get this console. Don't get it. No, it's going to blow up. It's the worst thing ever. This console is the worst. And then you're going to get other people kind of like me now. They're just going to be like, yeah, I get it. And, you know, if you like projects, if you like fixing things, getting stuff working, giving consoles a second try, you know, get one. See, it's complicated. It's complicated. I'm going to give you my pros and cons of what I think is good and bad with this console. This is just, of course, my opinion and my experience after owning one for almost 2 years. At the end of the day, I think everyone should do their own research before you buy something. And this goes with anything, not just with this in particular. There's so many things that go in depth with this console. And there's a lot of things that you should know that I'm about to talk about. So anyways, let's start off with the pros. So my first pro will be native emulation on the console. That's right, 3 consoles in one. You don't need to have the PS1, the PS2, and the PS3 out, or even just the PS2 and the PS3 because the PS2 has backwards compatibility with the PS1. You can just have the PS3 out with this console. So there's this chip called the Motion Engine chip. And this chip was pretty much used to power the PS2s back in the day, and it's fine on the fat and the slim models of the PS2. But this chip also had PS1 native emulation on it as well. So what Sony did with the early PS3 models is they put this EE chip on the motherboard of the PS3, which is like, whoa. So now we have not only a PS3, but we also have a PS2 and a PS1 built on the motherboard of the system. So not only could we run native PS3 games, obviously because it's a PS3 system, but we could also play PS2 and PS1 games, which is insane. Now having the PS2 and the PS1 built in natively on the motherboard pretty much allowed for this console to play almost any PS2 and PS1 game. Now, there are a few games that don't run well and some that just don't run at all, but I will leave a link on the description to which games you are actually able to play. So if you are looking to play some of these games on the PS3 and you're not able to, you'll be able to find it out here on this link. And on the topic of emulation, we move into our next point, which is out-of-box emulation. There are no special tweaks or anything needed to get this running on the backwards compatible PS3. All you need to do is get a disc, put it in there, and boom, you're playing original games. The only reason why I say this, and I mentioned it, is because future models after the launch PS3 models, they removed the backwards compatibility feature with the PS2 and the PS1 natively on the system. The PS1, you're still able to do it through emulation, just software emulation. Every PS3 can do PS1 software emulation, but only the original ones could do the native PS2 and PS1. There are some mods that you can do obviously with future consoles. Like a lot of people recommend you get a PS3 Slim and you mod that console so you can play PS2 and PS1 games. But even then, it's still software emulation and you do need to add some custom mods and do a few things to hack the system. But with this, you don't have to do anything. You just got the normal system. You can just put it in a game and you're playing games. I guess there's like one thing you have to do, which is create a digital memory card before you can start playing some of these games. But honestly, that's like the smallest thing that you have to do, and it's very simple. But you know, comparing that to modding your system, you can just call that a night and day difference. And lastly, no software check or game needing to be downloaded from a server in order for you to play it. You can just get any game you have, put it in the PS3, and you are playing backwards compatible games, my friend. So with this last one, I just wanted to make it very clear that you can get any game you have pretty much and put it in your PS3, in your backwards compatible PS3, and play it. And that's really cool. Like, I have a 360 and there are a few games that I wanted to try, but I wasn't even able to play it on the 360 because it wasn't supported through Xbox's backwards compatible program. And so that is a good example of why I love the backwards compatible PS3, because there is no need for this game to check into a server, so then you're able to download it from the server onto your machine, you know? And also just having those PS2 parts built onto the motherboard helps a lot with that, because you pretty much have a PS2 built in to the PS3. And so that really helps with the emulation and wanting to play these games. Sadly, those were all of my pros. Now we're moving over to the cons. Cons list you're going to see is big because there's just a lot of bad things with this console, honestly, if I'm being honest. So honestly, it just feels like the backwards compatible PS3 is a con itself. But no, I'm just joking. It's not. Maybe. So the first big con that I have with this system is that it has a lot of hardware issues. A lot. Disk drive issues, components on the motherboard failing, cooling, so many issues with this console. If you go through the internet and read all these different forums discussing the PS3, people are still trying to figure out the issues that are causing the backwards compatible PS3s to fail, whether if it's the components, the disk drive, the cooling, even the hard drive sometimes fails. So many different issues. But obviously, it can't be a backwards compatible PS3 video without us talking about the yellow light of death. And a lot of the issues that I was talking about earlier causes yellow light of death, but there really isn't one certain one that is the main cause of it. Because a lot of people at first thought that, oh, it's the NEC token capacitors that are on the motherboard that are causing these issues. But then others are like, actually, no, it's not. You need to actually delid the RSX and the cell CPU chips that are on the motherboard, because there's old CPU paste on there and it's causing cooling issues. So yellow light of death could be an issue with cooling. So then, okay, well, let me delid these CPU lids and let's see, maybe this will get fixed, right? Nope. Still having yellow light of death. Oh, okay, well, maybe it's the hard drive. Nope. So what could it be? Well, now people are finding out that, hey, the yellow light of death could be that it's just an issue with the solder because the PS3 use lead-free solder and it's having issues holding together the joints for it to touch the circuits on the circuit board. So, okay, well, let's go ahead and reball the CPU and the GPU chips, get rid of the lead-free solder, put some lead solder on there, and now the issue should be fixed. And yes, a lot of people were able to get that working. But that wasn't what helped me get mine working. I was just able to delid mine and get my stuff working like that. But we'll talk about that later. And as you can see, they're big con, and that's why it's my number one con, because the backwards PS3 just had so many hardware issues. And there really isn't one to pinpoint for it to be the main culprit causing these hardware issues. But I guess overall, we can just say that this console had major cooling problems. Major. But going in line with what I was talking about before, going into our next con, every console is different. Not every console is the same. Some people will have issues with one thing, others will have issues with another. And like I said, you just can't pinpoint one thing, which is what is wrong with these consoles. And we can all find a fix for it and be like, okay, yeah, we're fixing it like this, you know, because some people will be like, oh, okay, well, let me fix my console this way and it'll work. Others will be like, okay, let me fix it this way and that'll work. But not every console fix will fix these backwards compatible PS3 with YLOD. But what if I find someone that can help me fix my backwards compatible PS3? Oh my gosh! I can get a backwards compatible PS3 that way, right? No. So I was actually looking this up to see if someone could fix my backwards compatible PS3 because I actually had, I think I bought like 3. First of all, so the one I have working now works. Awesome, thank God. But I bought 2 others that I want to see if I could fix. One for my friend and another one, I guess, because I wanted to just try to sell it. I'm not really too sure, but anyways, I tried fixing it myself. Could not fix it. That thing would keep on coming up as YLOD, and it kept up coming up yellow light of the yellow, and I was like, dude, oh my gosh, this is getting so annoying. So then I just threw in the towel. I'm like, let me take it to someone that is obviously, that has way much more experience. So I took it to a local repair shop and I read up some reviews online about them. And I was like, okay, maybe they can fix it because it says that they can fix PS3s on their website. So I took it to them. And when I took it to them, I explained to them my issue. I explained to them what I wanted to do with the system and see if they can fix it. They're like, yeah, sure. You know, bring it all in. 2 days passed by and they were like, yeah, we can fix this. I was like, what? He was like, yeah, like there's a lot more issues with this than I thought, and this requires reballing and a bunch of other things, and we don't offer that. And I was like, bro, what? So I went online, I tried to find something, and I could not find anything around me, anyone around me that can help me fix this. And I don't know how to reball. Okay, I just started fixing consoles. How the fuck do you reball something, dude? That's insane. I mean, sure, down the line, I'd love to learn that, but I am not an expert at repairing consoles. So, like, you know, for me to try to look at a YouTube video and try to see how they reball something, or, dude, no, I can't do that. I honestly really can't do that. If you find someone that can fix your backwards compatible PS3, if you do end up getting one, that's awesome. Like, that's super cool. More power to you. All the places that I've found, unfortunately for me, they're all overseas. So like I was heavily debating. I was like, oh, maybe I'll send this over to the UK, see if someone can fix it for me. But like, I don't know. And especially when you can just mod, again, you can just mod your console. You can get a slim PS3 for a lot cheaper and you can just mod it yourself, and then you can play PS2 games through software emulation, but you can still play PS2 and PS1 games on your modded console. So then it's like, okay, well, I'm not gonna go through all that trouble just to fix my backwards compatible PS3. Especially like if I tried it myself to try to get some things working and everything, then I don't think it's that big of a deal for me to do that. But then also backwards compatible PS3s can be expensive to get too, especially some that have been fixed up. Like, for example, there's a new trend of PS3s going out right now on eBay. They're the Frankenstein modded PS3, where some people have been able to get the RSX chip from the PS3 Slim and put it on the backwards compatible PS3s, because apparently that has better cooling, and a few other things that, again, I don't really understand that well, but overall it's just better. That's all I know. And it's like, okay, well, that's really cool, but like I look up a Frankenstein modded PS3 and it's like, damn, that shit expensive as hell. But even if you go through and you're looking through broken backwards compatible PS3s, they can even be expensive. Like, for example, I went over here to a local store where they sell books, but they also sell a bunch of video games and hardware, a lot of things. And at that store, they sell broken consoles on a shelf. And when I went over there and I was looking at the backwards compatible PS3s, they were like $100. I'm like, dang, for a backwards compatible PS3, wow, this thing came out almost 17 years ago, $100. And if you thought all those other issues were bad, well, you also have to think about upkeep, because let's say you do get it fixed, you find someone that fixes it for you, whatever the case may be, this thing requires a lot of upkeep because it is a heat machine, and if you don't properly cool this thing or get it properly cooled inside, it will cause wildload again. Whenever I'm playing games on this machine, obviously PS3 is going to heat up this machine. But when I'm playing even older games like PS2, PS1, this thing heats up. And honestly, it's because of all the components that are on this motherboard. You know, honestly, having 3 systems on one motherboard can heat that up. It gets heat up. So I feel like the cooling was one of the biggest issues with this console. And the issues of it not being properly cooled cause it to have a lot of issues. But if you do properly clean your machine, and if you do get one and you do delid the CPU and GPU chips, and you do apply new thermal paste and get that all cleaned up, then this console does last a lot longer. But of course, your results may vary. It really depends on the console. It depends on the machine, but it does require a lot of upkeep. This is definitely not the type of console you can just hide away in a little corner with zero ventilation, no sort of airflow whatsoever. This console needs to be out in the open, like with the best airflow possible, so it just doesn't heat up and break and cause wildload for you. And it's those sort of things that can be a turnoff, honestly, like having to constantly, you know, see that it's working well, make sure that everything, like the components, everything like that, are okay. Those sort of things can be sometimes a lot for some people. And obviously when it comes to like just gaming casually, like you just sit back chilling and gaming, it really sucks that, like, well, sometimes my disk drive won't work on the backwards compatible PS3. It's like, okay, why aren't you taking out the disc, or why aren't you inserting the disc, you know? Or sometimes the console won't turn on, or a bunch of other things like that. And yes, after looking at all those cons, you might be somewhat turned off on buying a backwards compatible PS3, but I can assure you it is worth it, especially as someone like me that likes to tinker with things, getting stuff working, giving stuff a second life, because a lot of people, they don't realize the true power or potential that their machines have, and they tend to just push it away, throw it away, and try to get something better. But their old stuff works just as good. You just need to give it some more life. And after giving this backwards compatible PS3 more life, it's been working flawlessly for me these past 2 years. And it's actually kind of crazy because I haven't experienced anything, obviously, knock on wood, but the PS3 has been working fine. It's been working fine. I've not had any issues with it. It's been playing all of my games. It's been connecting to the internet fine. It's working. Which brings me into the next point. Repair journey and upkeep. This is my favorite part of this video, because when I bought this console, I didn't know anything about that stuff. I didn't know how to repair a console. I didn't know anything about the wildload. I've never even heard about that before, because my first PS3 was the PS3 Super Slim. So that's like, wow, wildload was way out the door when they released that. But all these issues came apparent to me when I first tried opening up the console, fixing it up, and then realizing wildload and what it does and what it is and all that sort of stuff. So as a lot of you may know, I bought this console back in January. and I bought it off an eBay listing, and the eBay listing was talking about how this console had WLOD, and if it was able to be fixed, it could be a really good console. But the console was literally near perfect. It came with the launch box, everything, like the packaging was amazing. It literally felt like I was getting a brand new launch PS3. It was absolutely an amazing eBay find. The only issue that was wrong with that console is that it had WLOD, but the console was never opened. No one tried to fix it. This person was just selling it like how it is. So never in my mind had I thought about fixing a PS3, especially a PS3 with WLOD. That was never in my mind before. But when I saw that, it really motivated me to at least try, because one can never know if they are able to find an easy fix to something, or maybe the person just didn't know that they had a plate of gold right there and they just gave it away for nothing. So I went ahead, bit the bullet, bought the console. Console was shipped to me. I was just so happy when I saw it. I opened it up and I was like, wow, this console is absolutely beautiful. I took care of that. And then finally, when I was able to open up the console, fix it up, get it working, it was just absolutely amazing and the best feeling ever to get a working console like that. When I opened it up, honestly, it was not dirty at all. It was clean. And it's crazy because obviously the console was never opened up, but also this person, like it felt like this person gave me a brand new PS3. Like I'm telling you, it felt like a brand new PS3. I opened it up, it was clean inside and everything. So obviously heating was not an issue. It couldn't have been the hard drive since it was like never used or anything like that. So it was just a lot of really weird things as to why this console is getting WLOD. So the first thing I did was try to delid the RSX and the cell chips on the PS3. That was the biggest thing that I was reading, is that a lot of people did that because of heating and cooling issues that causes, because you're having like almost 17 plus year old CPU paste on there. So definitely needing to take that out and try getting it working yourself. So that's what I did. I took that out and I was able to successfully do it. It was very hard. I'm not gonna lie, it was very hard and it was very scary because this was my first time doing it. I saw a lot of videos before I did this, but it was still very scary because trying to remove that with super old CPU paste on there, it's really stuck. So you had to like heat it up as much as you could without damaging the board and then just slowly pry at it. And I used some painter tools here to pretty much get rid of that old CPU paste there. And then when I finally was able to lift it up, it was a sigh of relief. I didn't damage any of the circuits on the CPU. From my personal experience, I think that the RSX chip is the easiest to delid. When I was first doing it, it just plopped right off. It wasn't really that hard. The cell chip is the one that is an absolute headache. I was just like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can ever get rid of this. And what was nerve-wracking was scratching and damaging like components on the actual chip itself, which I did previously, like I mentioned. But on this PS3, I did not want to mess up at all because it's like, this is a near perfect PS3. I have to get it right. But I got it right, and I replaced it, got it working, put everything back together. And when I turned on that console, oh my gosh, it literally felt like I won the lottery when I did that, because it was like, man, near perfect PS3, work in order now. This is awesome. Now I know there's a lot of components that people actually recommend you change out. Some people have changed out the power supply to a different power supply from a later unit that you're actually able to get better wattage. I'm not really too sure with that. But also some people recommend you switch the console fan here from a 15 blade to a 19 blade fan to get better cooling as well. So there's a lot of things you can do with this console to get better airflow, better cooling. You know how like laptops can also get overheated, but there's this little cooling thing you can put underneath your laptop, and it pretty much provides more airflow there to the laptop. I actually got one of those for the PS3 to pretty much put in more air into the console for better cooling. But there's so many other things you can do to improve the cooling with the backwards compatible model if you decide to get one, of course. So when it comes to consoles, take care of your console, and it will take care of you. You will see how long this thing will last, especially with it being a piece of history. Because the PS3 honestly is a huge piece of gaming history, because I feel like Sony really took a 180 and just changed completely. They went from the Spider-Man font PlayStation 3 to the PS3, and if it wasn't for that PlayStation revision, I feel like we would have gotten PlayStation 4 instead of PS4, PlayStation 5 instead of PS5. Who knows actually where Sony would have been at right now if they didn't learn from their mistakes from the PS3. Like, yes, this console had a lot of issues, the backwards compatible model that is. It had a lot of issues, but it also had a lot of good things to come out of it. But yeah, that'll wrap it up for today's video. This console is still awesome. It's so good. And even if you don't get a backwards compatible PS3, get a PS3, man. PS3 is honestly probably my top 3 console of all time. It really helped me get back into gaming after I just got out of it completely. But the PS3 has just come out with so many good games. There's so many bangers on the PS3. And I honestly miss that era of PlayStation and Xbox, because I feel like that's when they were duking it out the hardest and they were in the ring, and Xbox was winning at some point, but then PlayStation came back and became the comeback kid, and it was a really good generation. So I would recommend you now to start collecting PS3 if you really want to get into PS3 before it gets too crazy later on in the future, because you know that's just how the retro market is now apparently. But let me know what you guys think about this. I will be doing an Xbox 360 version of this because the Xbox 360 deserves some love. The Xbox 360 is awesome. I've never played the 360 before, and it was really cool to try it out and play it. So you will be seeing a video like this, very similar. So definitely make sure to subscribe so you can see that video. And also a bunch of other cool content that I'm going to be putting out. Like, come on, you don't want to miss out on that, right?